talking points may be the former Anders Rowe and Adam Ellis, and perhaps more surprisingly Ulrich Ostergaard. And I'll also be surprised if we don't spend some time talking about what happened at Birmingham last week. But that, again, will be up to you. However, let me make my position quite clear. Rules is rules, whether you agree to them or not. And any bending of those rules will surely lead me to be saying, once again, only in Speedway. Straight in, okay. Good evening, everybody. In the studio we have our old mate, Chris. Old being the operative word, of course.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
We have our young mate, Matt.
That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. That's the nicest thing he's ever said to me, that is.
Yeah, I had my fingers crossed at the time. And Methuselah, myself, Michael, or GA.
Middle-aged man.
Yeah.
He's been called a few things.
Yeah, I've been called a few things. So, yeah, it's been, as I said, it's been an interesting week in Speedway. Obviously, I think we will be talking about what happened last Wednesday. I'm not going to start with that unless people start coming up with that on the shout box. Chris will let us know about that.
I will.
What we want, which brings me to the thing that what we actually need and what we need off you and want off you is for you to take part in tonight's show. Talk about what's happened at your track, how you think your team's doing. There's been some really surprising results. Some weird results, I think.
Very strange.
So yes, let us know how you're feeling, and we'll talk about all the matches that have gone on since last Wednesday, including the match that went on last Wednesday,
Which apparently was all your fault, so I've heard.
do you know what? I'll take it.
Good. Oh, I should think you should as well.
Just to get people off Lawrence's back. So please take part, and also tonight we're going to restart our competition. More of that later, but in the meantime, Chris, how can they take part in the show?
Okay. Oh, if you want to take part in the show, there's a couple of ways you can do it. I mean, you can go onto Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. But if you want to actually talk to us, actually come into the studio, but not into the studio, if you know what I mean, you can call in if you like. If you want to call in, just message us, and I'll you give me your phone number, and I'll call you, and you can join in, or you can come in on Zoom if you fancy doing that, if you're brave enough.
You make it sound as if we're going to bite.
Well, us three do. So.
Yeah.
Well,
We're just stupid, not brave.
you are pretty scary, though, aren't you?
You've said the nicest things. I don't know what to say. Right, so shall we start going through these results then? That's happened, and some of these really weird results that we've. So obviously we're looking Wednesday to Wednesday. So and we also say there's two matches going on today, isn't there?
Yep. I'll get those. I guess our audience will keep linking.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to get an update on those actually now, because they'll be half an hour into the matches. So yeah, let's talk about the Knockout Cup, Birmingham versus Redcar. This point, I don't think I want to say an awful lot. Matt, you was there.
Yeah.
You're not a Birmingham Speedway supporter as such. Give us your take on the proceedings.
Well, it's probably not really a nice, whether it, obviously, regardless of portioning blame or anything like that, it wasn't really a night that will go down very well in the folklore of Birmingham Speedway, will it? Obviously a delayed start, problems with the track. To be honest, once the meeting got started, there was actually some pretty good racing, to be honest. But obviously there were the grading of the track, which didn't really seem to be making a huge amount of difference, I don't think, to be honest, from the position I was in. And then obviously
and I will talk a little bit about that.
And obviously the crash at the end, which obviously curtailed the meeting. And obviously we wish Jordan all the best, of course. But it was, it was probably wasn't. I guess really when you look at it objectively, of course, 20 months since Birmingham was last meeting. A good crowd, to be fair, as well. Obviously, there was the fact that they were allowed people were allowed to come and out on the gate.
Which has now been changed and not allowed to do
which
that.
which maybe didn't really help matters in terms of getting people in. To be honest, because I suppose when you got the option to pay on the gate, people are probably going to wait and see what the weather's doing first. There was thunderstorms forecast for Wednesday, wasn't there?
There was, yeah.
And I was, I think there were a couple of spots of rain while I was on the way home
I
from
actually
work.
came through a thunderstorm on the way to the track, so
Which way did you come? You must have come a different way to me because
down the motorway.
it felt thunderstormish because it felt warm enough, but there was a couple of spots of rain and that was about it from my experience.
No, I did, as I say, when I'm coming up from Chelmsley Wood, I did go through one thunderstorm. It wasn't brilliant, and I didn't go, oh, the match is going to be off.
Yeah.
Just went through it. Right, we've got a few things coming on the shout box, I see. So, do you want to start?
Okay, Simon Corbett says, evening, got to talk about the debacle at Birmingham. Thought about going up on Wednesday, won't now. Shame.
It is a shame that you won't. I'll explain a little bit more about what happened from my perspective, anyway. In a little bit. There's another one about it. So, do you want to read that one? And
can you shed any light on what happened at Birmingham? Was the track really that bad? Is it down to the vandalism that occurred pre-season, or something else? Says Craig.
It doesn't help, does it?
No,
So,
the vandalism has caused a lot of problems. First of all, if you go back 6 or 7 weeks now, and you'd seen that track, you couldn't have even done motocross in it. I don't know about Speedway, because obviously nobody's been able to go anywhere near the track, doing any work on it at all. Originally, we was given just Sundays to work on it, which is not a lot of time. And then we managed to, Saturdays to work on it, and then we managed to get Sundays for the past, I don't know, month maybe. And there's been a lot of work gone on that track. I know, because I've been doing some of it, volunteering down
Not very
there.
well.
Just blaming me.
hashtag blame Mike is trending, I think.
And it's. I mean, we spoke about this last week about how much work was done on the track and needed to be done, and all sorts of things. Now, a lot of the problems started last week when people couldn't get in. Again, not the fault of Birmingham Speedway as such. My understanding now, if I've got this wrong, this is what I've been told. My understanding is that the guy that came and checked the stands, which apparently now have to be checked every week, by the way, forgot to put the tags on them when he'd inspected them and said they was okay. And then the council wasn't going to let anybody in on those stands if they hadn't got the proper tags to say that they were safe. So he had to be called to come and get them, and he wanted to. I don't want to be unfair on anybody. He wanted to charge a eye-watering amount
Fee,
of
just to come back and put some tags on.
As I understand it. So that had to be. I think I'm not entirely sure what happened after that, but anyway, we got the tags on, and that's when they let them in. This, of course, caused problems at the door because there was only one point of entry. Nobody's worked this system before. From Birmingham side or from the Greyhound side. A lot of new staff at the Greyhound anyway, because Greyhounds have changed hands.
Yeah.
So it caused problems, and I think that's certainly been acknowledged by the club, and they've apologised, and they've looked at it, and hopefully this week it will all be a bit smoother.
It's not really the ideal stadium for getting into, to be honest, is it? In that perspective. So that's that. The track was the track really that bad? I've never ridden a speedway bike, but I know that our lads were I don't think happy is the right word. Were prepared to race on the track, but there was some problems on the track caused by essentially the vandalism because we hadn't got the best equipment. Yeah.
We'd had equipment that we'd sent back to get repaired, and it's come back not really repaired.
Slapped a bit of paint on it.
We had a tractor that broke down, which caused which had been repaired. This tractor had been repaired, as I understand it, anyway, and this left water in a couple of puddles, essentially, which left a couple of soft places on the track. There's more than a couple, but there were some soft patches on the track, which is what they were complaining about. Now, don't get me wrong. If you don't want to, if I've never ridden a speedway bike, the track wasn't perfect, and they know more than me whether that was rideable, and I don't really want to get into that. The only thing I will say is that when we scraped it off and they said we're ready to race, I think the track was worse then than it was before we scraped it off.
It didn't look great when I got there about 6 o'clock, and the track didn't look great then. And I thought, it sort of brought memories back of the opening night at Monmouth, to be honest, which of course ended up, with the meeting only running for two races. Those are all the things that as I'm aware have happened. And yes, the track wasn't great, it wasn't the best, and there's all lots of reasons why that was so. Most of them, if not all of them, out of the control of Birmingham Speedway. It was a perfect storm, basically. Yeah.
So for Birmingham Speedway supporters to be saying, probably in the heat of the moment, let's be honest, oh, I'm not coming back, that was rubbish, guys, give them a chance. It's been 18 months. Things were never going to be perfect. They'll get better. Mm-hmm. And we need you. And, the club's going to need your support against Glasgow. My life. That's going to be a tough one. I think that's pretty much all I've got to say on that, unless somebody else has got any specific questions. So, I will say this. I've read a couple of reports from Redcar that have blamed the track on the accident.
No.
The track had got... Was there any accidents before heat?
No. To be honest, I said to you before that we actually saw some pretty good racing on Wednesday.
When you could see past the dust.
Just a bit, yeah. Someone like Chris Harris, who always does well on tracks like that, doesn't he? So he was obviously...
And the times weren't, they were representative times, weren't they?
Yeah,
they weren't that bad.
They weren't particularly far off the pace, were they? No. I don't think they were pretty much on a par with what's normal at Perrybar, weren't they? So.
Yeah, I would say so. So, to blame the track for that accident is very obviously another way that Redcar's trying to... I don't want to... Okay. They have obviously stated that they think that result should stand.
Yeah.
As I said in my little diatribe at the beginning, rules are rules. And sometimes there are a number of occasions they've worked against Birmingham, like not being allowed into the playoffs in our first year back, even though we were in the top four, but we weren't in the top four by the right time.
Yeah.
And things like that. And you just... rules are rules, and you just have to accept them. Otherwise, what's the point of having rules?
Yeah.
So, that's my thought on it anyway.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Sometimes they work for you, and sometimes they work.
It was just a shame, really, because it sort of gave the particularly if you had people there that were first timers. They always say on their first impressions count for a lot, and I suppose if that's your first impression, then you're not going to be very keen to come back again. But it was as I say. You can't. I don't think anybody at Birmingham is saying that it wasn't a shambles, because it was. Whether you want to apportion blame or not, it didn't really reflect very well on the club, to be honest. Unfortunately,
no, it didn't, and I think there is an understanding of that, and they have apologised on several occasions now. So there's not a lot else they can do except get it right next time.
Yeah.
Do we have what's going on?
Okay, Neil McLean says Bandits doing well at Plymouth.
Let's see if we can get some
if anybody can give us some
scores up.
scores, that'd be great. Craig says, very pleased with the start of the season by the Aces. I think we were favourites at the start of the season along with Wolves. I think it's proving why we've got to keep everyone fit. I feel we are going to, I feel if we are going to do anything this season, Peterborough are the dark horses, in my opinion. Many people, including myself, had written them off, but they're decent side, very experienced.
I think I would go along with that.
Yeah, 26-28 is the score at
Oh, right, okay.
Plymouth, by the way. That's after heat 9.
Okie dokie. And there's the Kent match as well, isn't there?
Yep, I shall hold it for that one.
Could Birmingham have potentially delayed their home meetings and started season's racing away meetings until the stadium track and equipment was up to scratch? Could the league not have made an exception due to the unfortunate circumstances? I can't answer as to whether the league would have made an exception or not, but how long have you been supporting Speedway?
Kent 34, Glasgow 44. So the lucky score.
Okay.
Kent, that's after
Glasgow
number
are
11.
strong, aren't they?
Yeah, Glasgow are very strong.
Could we have delayed our home meeting? Well, I suppose again the answer would be whether we would have been allowed. Would Redcar have allowed us to?
The only other thing, of course, is if you have a period of time when you're in only away meetings, you've got no home meetings to fall back on for income, the gate money. So
yeah. So I mean, all of those things. Talking about the equipment being up to scratch, I know that we have a new water bowser.
Good.
I think it's big enough to water Wembley. We're coming on the lorry on Sunday.
I'm not going to need water wings to get into the stadium tomorrow.
And the new tractor, which is a big thing.
Yeah, tractors are quite on the large side, to be fair.
Oh, this is bigger than the tractors that we've got. So, and there's other bits and pieces. And I think one of the things that happened was that... So, okay, I've said not bad things about Redcar, but perhaps I've been slightly critical of them. But Chris Van Straten was there because he's
obviously involved with
Redcar, and he's helped out with helping us source up some bits and pieces as well. So, that should be said, I think.
Yeah.
The other thing, actually, sorry, they were going to be spending all our time talking about this, I can say. The other thing is that a comment has been made saying, what a surprise. There was a dog track on that, a dog meeting on that must have been a surprise. Well, yeah, it was. It was put on us at the last minute. It wasn't dog races, it was dog trials because they're obviously they're not actually racing at the moment in the stadium.
Yeah.
And there was some dog trials that I understand we didn't know about. So these things, so we wasn't given less time to prepare the track than what we expected.
Is that going to be a regular thing during the season? Or?
My understanding is that's not going to be a regular thing soon. So we should hopefully have more time on the track.
Yeah.
But again, this is just what I'm hearing. I can't say it's not from any official source or anything. So, do you want to read that one for us?
Okay, so Eric says, let's be honest, time is needed to prepare a track properly. Promoters don't have that luxury nowadays. Water supply a must, especially on a hot daytime, to allow the water to soak in.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding is that there's been somebody down the track today soaking the track to get the water into the base.
Did they gamble last week that it was going to rain, do you think?
My understanding is no, they didn't.
No. Because it was forecast.
It was forecast. And who'd be a track man? I'd have been going, oh, do I, don't I? But no, I don't believe they did. There was plenty of water put in the track, and we just took most of it off when we scraped the damn thing. So,
Can I just quickly say thank you to those people that have shared the stream. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much. Did you see the meeting last night on Eurosport, Wolves versus Sheffield? A lot of comments slating the track there. I didn't think it looked that bad. I've seen it a lot worse. I think the crashes we witnessed were rider error rather than the track.
Over to me, I suppose.
You was there, wasn't you? I mean, I did see it on Eurosport, which I thought was good coverage once again. By the
track wasn't great, I don't think. Certainly towards the end, you could see the base of the track, the famous blue groove.
Mm-hmm.
It was obviously it was an interesting meeting in terms of the closeness of the score. I don't think Sheffield were ever going to win the meeting because they were basically a 3-man team. To be honest, I think they've got 1 point from Carl House rides, and obviously Carl's ridden at Wolves for the last 4 years. I think he would have got more than that. But it was another good win for Wolves. To be honest, made hard work of it. But obviously nice to get revenge for the defeat of Sheffield last Thursday.
I did feel a little bit sorry for Sheffield. I mean, them, with the injuries and everything that's happening.
Yeah, they were unlucky not to get something at. Obviously, I think they got a point up there at Bellevue, didn't they? But I think if Troy Batchelor had started in the meeting better, I think they could have pushed Bellevue and harder.
He seems to have found some form all of a sudden.
Yeah, he rode well last night, I think. He was getting out to start well.
And Adam Ellis obviously rode.
Yeah.
Certainly for 2 rides anyway. And then he decided to...
That nasty crash, yeah.
That crash, was that down to the track or was it rider error or...
Bit of both, I think.
That was how I would read it.
Yeah, I think, we saw with Crumpy's crash last week. I think there's still an argument to say that the modern bikes are maybe starting to get a bit too powerful for Mama. Because obviously you've got to turn on them, you've got to turn really, really sharp on the bends and scrub a lot of speed off. And I think the bikes now sort of... The one thing I've always said, I've been watching Speedway for over 30 years, and it's the last few years, I don't think I've ever seen so many crashes where riders have fallen off unchallenged. You always tended to find when there were accidents, it was because someone was putting another rider under pressure and they made a mistake and came off, or they collected each other. But sometimes you'll see, and not just newcomers either, you'll see experienced riders that'll just suddenly lose it and they just can't get the bike back under control. So
is one of the reasons for that, is that because of Poland being so dominant in the sport? Obviously they've got big tracks that need powerful engines.
Well, last year I was listening to a podcast with Barry Briggs, and Briggo, to be fair, said that he takes a lot of criticism for this because of the introduction of the lie-down engines in the mid-90s, because he feels guilty about that because it's sort of made bikes too powerful too quickly. I think with the advent of technology, bikes would have become more powerful anyway if they stayed on upright engines.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what Westlake was all about, and we heard similar things.
With the four valves, was it in the 70s when Phil Crump used to win races and come round patting his engine to annoy fans?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think there is something in that, to be honest. I mean, Kelvin Tatum has argued quite passionately about it, hasn't he? About the bikes being too powerful, especially when you give an inexperienced rider a bike that's got a lot of power in it.
Well, we should talk about Josh Bateson.
Yes.
In that sort of respect, he looked to be overriding to me, and that was a criticism of him at another track earlier in the season. I can't remember where it was now, but he had another coming off. You was there?
I felt it was, to be honest. I'm not saying it because it's an opposition rider, but it was...
I mean, when I'm not. This isn't trying to be critical of him.
No, of course not.
It's enthusiasm and him wanting to do well, and obviously he's in that position at reserve, being given this chance, and he wants to do well. But is it too soon for him? I mean, he's a good rider.
He's a talented rider. There's no doubt about that. If he can stay on the bike, of course, and. But, I think, as I say, you probably hit the nail on the head in a lot of senses that you maybe sometimes you're guilty of maybe overriding a little bit or trying too hard.
Yeah.
This is all wrong. We're agreeing with each other too much this evening, isn't we? So.
Well, we might not agree on the next bit, but do you want to read what Sean Simo Simpson has said?
Okay, so Sean says, why do tracks not drag the dirt back from the outside to inside nowadays, like they used to, preventing tracks from blue grooves and ripping up the inside?
Okay, a couple of answers for that. I mean, they do a number of tracks still bring it from the outside to the inside. We don't so much at Birmingham. We tend to bring it in a couple of metres and then let the tractor do its thing. A lot of tracks have this thing called a wonder wheel, which is supposed to distribute it over We've got one. We just haven't got a tractor to pull it at the moment.
I wish I had the. You're my wonder wheel.
But
I
yeah,
haven't got it. Sorry.
but to be honest, it doesn't prevent blue grooves because it's loose.
Yeah.
You rake it over and it's loose. The back wheel goes onto it and it goes back to where it's just come from, essentially. So if there's not enough.
Okay, just for everybody who doesn't understand what a blue groove is, please explain.
It's the base of the track.
Well,
basically.
it's when you get to the part of the track which is like concrete.
Yeah.
Because which can be all the way. I mean, our track was like concrete about 4 or 5 weeks ago. All of the shale was plenty of shale on there, but it was hard.
Yeah.
And then you get this blue groove, which is basically the rubber coming off the tyres onto the concrete, which then obviously that's the only place you're going to ride because that's where any grip is on that blue groove on the rubber.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
Which unfortunately isn't conducive to good racing.
well, no,
to be honest.
no, it's not.
So
Cool. Just to annoy you even more, Susan Jordan said there's something on at the dog track tonight. Loads of vans and dogs on both car parks.
Okay, yeah, they're probably doing training and stuff like that. I don't know. Brian Buck, okay. Do you want to read that for me?
Brian says, I'd go along with this, but these days the track's prepared the way the riders want them to be. Slick and with minimal grip. So with the mod machines, not many riders would want the tracks graded in the way that they used to be.
That is true.
Yeah.
I have. Yeah, that is true. And, yeah.
And Gary O'Hare says, mentioned it in his interview before West Lake Day that the new engines are more powerful. He touched on it saying that the bikes need to be any quicker or powerful than the uprights were. Surely it's all about 4 riders racing together over 4 laps and 60 seconds. Quicker engines shaved a second or 2 off the race. The races isn't going to make a huge difference to the naked eye.
Well, I'll give an indication of how quick the bikes have become. I think when I first went to Wolves in 1990, the track record was about 57.33. That would now be considered a slow time for Wolves. It's about 53. The track record is now. That's 30 years.
That's quick.
Well, question. I know obviously it was a different track, but what was the track record at Perryville when you first went at the old one?
We was getting 66 seconds, I think. So
Yeah.
that's sort of.
But it's smaller than. Was the one then smaller than the?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
It's smaller than where we are now.
And here's me thinking Speedway was supposed to be raced on tracks with loads of shale. How times change, says Eric Parsons.
Yes.
Yeah.
We used to be raced on cinder. I mean,
Many years ago, yeah.
so yeah, I mean things do change. They don't need as much. That's the thing, is that they don't need as much dirt to find some grip to get them, to get that pass. I mean, we do see passes. Adam Ellis found some grip from somewhere yesterday. His bike went off like a rocket.
Yeah.
And he ended up in the fence. So
Thankfully, of course, he walked away from it. So
he was a lucky boy.
yeah.
From one debacle to another debacle, should we just briefly touch on the Isle of Wight fiasco?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know an awful lot about this, but
Okay, Matt.
Let me get the statement up that Barry put on. Just talk amongst yourselves for a minute.
Okay, so basically, it's regarding the BSP banning riders from going to the Isle of Wight.
it's BSGB now, isn't it?
Is it?
I remember right.
BSPL, isn't it?
It's BS something.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, it's BSPA. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
BS stands for something else as well, doesn't it?
A few people have mentioned about the tyres as well, haven't
Bovine
they?
scatology.
That's right, yeah.
A few people have talked about the tyres as well, haven't they, with the
Yes,
splitting and things like that.
because there's new tyres now, isn't there?
Yeah, I think Carl Newman put a photograph on Instagram of one of his tyres that was pretty much brand new, and it was coming apart at the seams,
Right.
to be honest. So
I mean, I don't know whether you were aware of this, but not having, because you was at the track and wasn't watching it on the tally, but they said the riders could have 2 tyres and not one, instead of 1 tyre for them each yesterday. Was you aware of that?
I wasn't aware of that, no.
It must be true because Pearson said it.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's very cynical, isn't it? Very, very
happiness,
cynical.
Yeah. Unpopular opinion: were the riders of the past more skillful and bags of ability, throttle control than the current crop of riders?
Well, I think riding in this country, I think riders do learn the art of have to learn the art of throttle control because of tracks like Wolverhampton and Eastbourne and times that where it's all about throttle control and turning sharply and just honing technical skills.
And also, isn't it just a case of better machinery?
So, I'm going to say something that nobody's going to agree with, but I'm going to pour it out there. I actually think, because I lived through 70s and 80s. I saw Speedway in the 70s and 80s, and then I had a big break because Birmingham wasn't there. So I can see what almost like for like the difference. And I think the matches are much better now than they were in the 70s. And if you look over some of the old matches on YouTube, and there's plenty of them on there, I think the racing's much better.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do agree with that, to be honest.
So
I've got the Isle of Wight statement anyway, so I'll just pick the best bit out of it. After the incredible support shown to the White Link Warriors following their withdrawal from Speedway's National League, news that the plans for the summer spectacular of racing are at risk will come as a huge blow to many fans across the UK, and especially our loyal fans and supporters on the Isle of Wight. The reason is not COVID this time, or a lack of interest, but it's a lack of suitable riders who are concerned at the threat of possible actions. Co-owner Barry Bishop explained, after the news that the directors of the British Speedway promoters would allow amateur status riders to come to the Isle of Wight to participate in our events, everybody associated with the club was delighted, and the feedback from the public was that it was a great move for the sport and rider development. With riders literally chomping at the bit to ride on the island to improve their skills, get more track time and competitive racing under their belts, we now find that the BSBL appear to view the NL riders as classed as amateur, as not professional, with clubs stopping riders from coming to the island. If you recall, we were delighted that with a way forward was found with the BSBL, as the NL has always been presented as an amateur league with riders being paid effectively expenses, but this, we are now told, is not the case, and LA riders have the same professional status as Premier and Championship riders. To be honest, the threats being made to some riders should they come to the island are really very sad to see, from ranging from receiving bans or fines for stepping into the stadium to support us, or to participating in a meeting that could lead to a ban or a fine, and even practising at Small Brook could incur the same measures as being imposed, which is now a complete contradiction to what the regulating body have previously told us. Only the other day, another new reason for refusing permission to ride emerged when the charging of entrance fees and payment of riders became an issue. With full medical cover and ferry costs to meet, along with other costs at the stadium, why wouldn't we charge spectators to watch an evening of entertainment? That's not the whole statement, that's obviously the main bits that I've picked out of it, but another kick in the teeth for Barry.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
Barry
the first thing we should say is we're only hearing one side of the story.
Absolutely, yeah.
We need to, but on the face of it, it is a kick in the teeth, and it doesn't sound great. And don't we need every track, whatever level?
Well, we've lost Swindon, hopefully temporarily. Mm-hmm. We've lost Somerset, hopefully temporarily, but I'm not particularly hopeful. Yeah. So we're in a situation now where we've got COVID means that we can't race in front of full stadiums until at least June the 21st, subject to that standing, which I'm getting less confident by the day that it's going to.
Yeah.
So really, the BSBL should be moving hand over fist to support some of these clubs, and we've lost a lot of clubs over the last few seasons. Why are we putting ourselves in a position now where we seem to be making it impossible for clubs to be able to run?
Yeah, would you like to?
Eric says the emphasis is on gating nowadays. Unfortunately, the riders of the past definitely more skillful.
So the riders of the past are more skillful than Darcy Ward or Bartok Smarslick or
Ty Woffenden.
I don't think so.
Not really.
Don't think so. Maybe as skillful, who knows? I mean, Kelly Moran probably comes in, and Sean Moran probably comes into that sort of. They would have loved these bikes, by the way. They would have loved them.
Excuse me if I'm being a bit thick, but isn't machinery better now and easier to ride than it was, say, 40 years ago?
Depends on how experienced you are, I think.
Yeah, and it depends on what you mean by better. They're faster.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean they're better, though.
They're more powerful. If you're a rider and you're scoring points on it, yes, it's better. But if you're a spectator and the racing's poor, no, it's not better.
Well, do you remember our 10th anniversary show? We had Kribby on, didn't we? And he was really, passionate about the fact that the bikes now are like rocket ships.
Yeah. So, yeah, maybe they need to...
I mean, if a rider from now, the present, if he got on a bike from 1973...
He'd probably get off and run alongside it.
Yes, he probably...
That's interesting. Maybe a race should be... maybe we should have a race. Somebody should organise a race.
Oh, they're definitely slow. There's no doubt about that. You wouldn't... If there's just been no... You could probably get a National League rider beat a Premiership rider. A top...
We'll try and get one of those split screens and watch a race from a track in the 70s and watch a similar race now and see what the difference is.
There you go,
what
Chris.
the difference is.
There you go, Chris.
It's got to be done.
Yeah.
Pretty easy to do.
That's your job. That's your homework for next week, by the way.
Yeah. I like the idea.
That would be interesting. That would, yeah. Colin says the difference is basically the engines are now designed to rev to a maximum, to which they flatten off when they grab hold and die. There is nothing left to get out of a problem in the days of Westlake. You rode on 3/4 throttle and bigger knobbles on tyres. You could respin the wheel. They have nothing in reserve now. The over-revving flattens the engines to make them drive on nearly slick tyres.
As far as I'm aware, isn't most of the damage done to an engine on the start when they're revving it?
That's why they...
Because there's no rev limiters, are there?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they was talking about doing that, and then I don't think... Surely professional sports should have a business model and contingency plan in place to stop clubs from just folding, Craig Smee. Yes.
Well, of course,
how long have you been watching Speedway?
The problem, of course, is that the promoters have got, the fact that they're all running their own clubs.
It needs... we've said it time and time again. It needs a Bernie Eccleston. It needs somebody running the sport.
A huge sugar daddy.
Yeah, or a Barry Hearn or somebody like that.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, not even that, just somebody that says, right, the rules are made and then he runs the sport, that's it.
Yeah.
But
it's never going to happen, is it? We're never going to see that.
So, yeah, I mean, there's lots of sort of comments about, laydowns are easier to ride, but grip much harder and harder to control. I think, this may well be true. That's why they don't need as much dirt as they used to. But it is what it is. It's not going to go back to Westlakes. It's not going to go back to Jowers. It's just...
Or light or price engines. Or
it won't happen. Can you imagine the uproar that some of the Grand Prix riders would...
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Okay, and talking about the 1970s, 80s, I want to know, when was your first ever meeting, right? Mm-hmm. And what was that moment that you thought, I like this?
You want to tell...
Well, I want everybody
else, because I think I've...
Yeah, I know you said it before, but what
yeah.
made you think, this is all right, I'm going to follow this every week?
Well... I don't think I thought that. I just went, bah, and that was it.
Yeah, bah.
Yeah, I couldn't believe what I was seeing because I didn't know I was going to see a Speedway meeting. That's the thing. My dad
had you heard of Speedway before?
I'd seen it a couple of times on the television.
Right. Okay.
Because my dad, who was a big Speedway fan, said, come and watch this, and I think it was a world final. No, it was a test match, and Ivan Major was riding for GB, only in Speedway. Right.
Wasn't Gary Newman?
And I was going, oh, that is good. And I could not work. I mean, I was, 10 maybe? I don't know. I couldn't work out how the bikes were turning left, but the wheels were pointing right.
Yeah.
You know, I was going, it just blew my mind. I couldn't work it out.
Yeah. And you're still trying to.
Yeah. And then, you know, a couple of months later or whatever it was, my dad said, I'd come home from school. My dad had come home from work and he went, get your coat on, we're going out.
Yeah.
I said, where are we going? I said, I'm not going to tell you. Which was quite a clever move by my dad. Yeah, because it sort of built up. And and it was to the old Perry Bar.
But he must have been a Speedway fan.
Yeah. My dad were wax lyrical about, you know, your Graham Warrens and Wacker Hunts and all those. And so and I didn't know what it was going to be. I obviously worked out it was going to be motorbikes because I could hear them warming up. Yeah. And then they come out and they did and just before I'll never forget this. Just before the first race, my dad leant down and said, "They've got no brakes." Bang, and off they went. And I went, what?
How is that possible? What about you, Matt?
Well, I suppose with my dad, I was always destined to be a Speedway supporter, wasn't I? So, I mean, my first.
Yeah, but you went to Wolverhampton instead, so.
Well, don't blame me. Blame Birmingham City Council because Birmingham weren't running the course when I mean, my first meeting was actually at Borsley Green. I think it might have been Birmingham Wimbledon. About 85, 86. I'm sure my dad's typing out now what it was. But I was only about 3, so I've got no recollection of it. But the first season I can properly remember at Wolves would be. Well, my first season was 1990, but I've got no recollection of that season at all, or 91, so it probably would be 92. But to me, it was just the atmosphere and the buzz around the place that really sort of enthralled and excited me, to be honest, and watching the racing, and obviously still going along now. Obviously, sometimes you get frustrated, but it's, you know, when Speedo gets it right, it's still a fantastic sport, and I think that's what's the most important thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said that that Speedway has the one thing, and has it on a regular basis, that is the mecca of all motorsports, which is the outside pass. There's nothing more exciting than an outside pass. Mr. Brian Buck says he's cutting you off his will for supporting. Do you want to read that one?
He says, Brian says, I got off the bus in Aldridge Road and joined the queue at the turnstiles. Then I heard the sound of the bikes being warmed and picked up that magical smell of the dope. And I was captured for life.
Was that
He's
you?
He's not talking about you. And Craig says, my first ever meeting was as a 3-month-old at Hyde Road. Let me know. His first memory of Speedway was, I think, 1996 or 97 at Bellevue versus Coventry. I just remember the stadium announcer shouting, "Rocket Ronnie Corey," every time he came out of the pits. The smell and the noise has me up to ears.
And Matt, get a pen out and write this down. Your first match was Birmingham versus Wimbledon at Borsley Green in 1986.
Yes, I thought it was. I knew it was at Borsley Green. I knew it was 86, but I wasn't sure whether it was Wimbledon. But obviously it was.
Right, so we get up to date with the scores, and then. I'm looking at the time. We should need to start our competition, don't we?
Yes, okay, yeah.
We was going to go through all the results of last week. We got as far as Birmingham versus Redcar, and whoops.
Yeah, okay. So we're about to launch our competition, aren't we? Of which I cannot remember how we did it.
Well, you need a pen and a paper.
I've got a pen and a paper. I'm ready. Don't you worry.
And so you've got to write down what. Because we're going to give our predictions as well, and then we start a little league table. That you happy to do that again?
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I believe was won by Ben, wasn't it, last year?
It was, yeah.
Ben was,
so you can all join in with this and just put your answers to. So we're going to go through all the matches for next week, and we give your predictions.
It was quite embarrassing the last time, because for a long time it was led by someone who hasn't been to a Speedo meeting for about 20 years.
It's only been 3 years.
So the current score at Plymouth is 31-35 in favour of Berwick. So still close there. It's just gone in the interval. That's after heat 11.
So I think we said it was 3 points if you got the exact score right,
Yeah.
2 points if you got the result right. Is that right? Is that how we did it?
Sounds
Yeah.
about right, yeah.
And so So
Okay.
join in, and what will they get? Because we gave a prize last time.
Yeah, I got T-shirts. I can have a T-shirt. Yeah, a newly designed T-shirt.
A newly designed T-shirt.
It's 51-39. It finished at Kent, by the way, in favour of Glasgow. Scott Nichols picking up 19 points.
Just one more.
He's had a good start, as he
Did we not sort of think that Kent had got a good team this year?
Yeah, we also thought Glasgow got a good team as well.
Yeah, they've got them.
Oh, God. And that doesn't bode well for our predictions, does it?
No.
And Simon says at Cradley, mid-70s.
Well, we've all got our crosses to bear.
I do apologise for that.
Seeing either Major or Olsen beat was unheard of. There you go.
You enjoyed your first trip to Dudleywood, didn't you? I think so.
Was an interesting.
That was the noise he made when he first walked in the stadium. Wasn't it?
It was an interesting experience. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Come on, then, kick it off.
Okay. So here we go then. First match. So we're obviously not going to do today's matches because we know what the score was. Birmingham versus Glasgow tomorrow. I'm going last on this one.
Okay.
So let's let the guru go first.
Go on then.
Oh, no, don't ask me. No, I'm not going to go first because I'll be embarrassed.
It's saying that as if that's something new.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Come on then, Matt.
back.
I'll go Glasgow 50-40. I think Glasgow look very, very strong this season.
They do look
to be
strong.
honest.
40. I'll go 48-42.
2.
Rubbish.
Okay.
Oh, it's like it's sweets off, baby. Sorry, did I say that out loud?
I'm going to say 45 all. And there's a few
Yeah,
predictions.
you are kind of on that fence, by the way.
Yeah. There's just been so many 45 draws.
Yeah.
It seems like I'm going to get one of them right anyway.
Yeah. What's number 2 then?
So Simon Corbett says 42-48.
These will be on the.
They'll still be on the show,
yeah.
so you can catch up with them
And
later. Yeah.
Craig Smith says 50-40 Glasgow win. Okie dokie. The next match, I better get my magic phone out. Where are we? On the same day, Poole versus Berwick. Poole haven't had as solid a start as I would
Yeah,
have
can I just say
expected.
best wishes to Rory Schlein as well? That
Yes.
was a pretty nasty injury that he's
Yes,
picked up.
absolutely.
I think he's going to be out for a.
And I wanted to talk about the fact that there's been quite a few injuries this year, but we never got. So perhaps we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah.
Poole versus Berwick then. I'm going to go first on this. I'm going to say 50-40. So 10-point win to Poole.
Mm-hmm.
That's up to you then, Chris.
I'm going to go again. Hang on. I'll go 42-48 Paul.
And Matt's going to go
I'll go 52-38 Paul.
52-38.
I do.
There's quite a few differences.
What did you say, Mike?
10-point win to Poole. 50-40. Craig Smith 42-48 to Berwick.
Yep.
And Simon Corbett 52-38 to Poole.
Come on then, Matt. You're up to you.
He did.
I've said 52-38.
Oh, sorry. I'm
So he agrees with you. Okay, so the next match is on the Thursday, which should be Ipswich versus Peterborough. Interesting. Shall I go first with this one?
Yeah, go on then.
I'm going to say 45 all again.
45 all. Two?
To Paul. That's how it usually works.
Go on, Matt.
I'm going to go 47-43 and I'm going to say Peterborough. Fancy Peterborough to win there, to be honest.
Right, okay. I'm going to go with Simon, but the other way around. for a laugh. I'll go 50-40.
2.
Ipswich.
Okay.
Okay. Just keep your scores coming on, and we will pick them all off, even if we don't read them, and we'll see who wins. Somebody said Paul's the next to close.
Oh, don't say that.
No. Who else am I going to hate? We laugh about that, but it is important part of sport, isn't it? You know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's trial,
Next one. This is going to be an interesting one. Edinburgh versus Leicester.
Ooh, that's a tough one to call, that is, isn't it?
Leicester have not had as great a start as they would have hoped.
I don't think they're as strong as they were last year, 2019.
Anyway, it's your turn to start this time.
Oh, okay. Is a draw feasible?
Yeah.
Right, I'll go for
Every result is feasible.
Yeah. Come on, then I'll stick my neck out for a 45-45.
Okay, Matt.
I'll go 49-41 Edinburgh.
49.
Okay, and I'm going to go 2-point win to Leicester. So 44-46.
Yep.
96.
I think that could be a tasty match, actually.
Craig's gone 50-40 to Edinburgh, and Simon's gone 49-41 Edinburgh.
Okay. All on the same day so far, these ones. Glasgow versus Redcar. That's up to you, Matt.
Redcar.
I'm going to go for...
Is he trying to work it out?
I'm putting them all on my phone because I didn't know we were going to be doing this, to be honest.
He's writing them down anyway.
Yeah.
That's all right.
You cheating? No, I'm not. I'm just pretending.
I'm just changing all the Chrissy scores. So.
That's good.
I'm going to go for Glasgow 53-37.
53.
I've been quite surprised actually by Redcar because I don't think they look particularly strong. But
You said that, yeah. But that proved you wrong.
yeah, I did say that to Charles Wright when he interviewed him, which might explain why he wrote so well on Wednesday.
I'm actually going to go the same as Matt.
Oh, well, okay, 52.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going 49-41 Glasgow.
49-41. Everybody seems to be predicting Glasgow.
Yeah, Simon's going for 52-38 Glasgow.
Scunthorpe versus Newcastle in the Championship.
Newcastle rode well the other night, didn't they?
They did, didn't they?
Yeah.
So did Scunthorpe.
You going first?
Yeah, I'm going first. I'm thinking this is not good radio, is it?
Nah, not really.
I'm going to go 49-41 to Scunthorpe.
Okay.
41.
I'm going to go for a 45-all draw.
What's it like on the fence?
Well, you should know. So.
Matt. And I'll go. Shall I go 49 as well? I'll go 49-41 as well. 49, 41. There we go.
We almost sound like we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, don't we? Yeah. If any of these predictions are anywhere near, I'll be so surprised. I think I come last time, didn't I?
Yeah, we'll get much better.
Berwick versus Redcar in the Championship. That's up to you.
Red car. Up to me?
Yep.
Okay. Berwick v Red car. I'll go 53-37 Red car. 53-37.
Ooh.
Okay. 37. 53.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Good big away win.
Stranger things have happened. Mike once bought a pint.
It's only a rumour.
Oh, the milk was that all?
Yeah, pint of milk.
I'm going to go for. I do think Red Coral will win there, to be honest, but I don't think it'll be that big. I will go for 48, 42.
48, 42 to Red Car.
Guess what I'm going to go for?
60 Thursday.
No. 45 all. Because Redcar seem to have a habit of doing that. Peterborough versus...
45 all, sorry, was that?
Yeah. Peterborough versus Wolverhampton, and it's your turn. How much is Peterborough going to win by then?
We don't usually do very well at Peterborough, to be honest. I always remember when we went there, went there a few years ago, and I think I think Peter Adams was interviewed by Sky, and they asked him about if he thought about any tactical substitutes, and he said, I was thinking about it all the way down the M6.
By the way, did anybody see the interview with Peter Adams yesterday? Did you hear about it?
I gather he was a bit...
very, yes, very. I'd rather be talking to my rider, actually.
Yeah.
So funny.
How many more meetings are you got? Because we've only got 4 minutes. So.
Well, we're waiting. We're waiting for.
I'm going to go Peterborough 49. I'm going to go Peterborough 49, 41.
Only one more actually after this one.
Yeah. 49, 41. I've gone Peterborough.
49, 41.
Okay.
That's Peterborough, by the way. I'm not that one-eyed.
Yeah. I'm going to say. 46, 44 to Peterborough.
Which is your bad name again?
They're both bad, I promise you.
Okay, I'm going to go. I've got faith in Wolves. Don't you worry about that. I'm going to go 48, 42.
To Wolves. Okay.
Oh, and Dave Twine's just woke up as well, so there's a few more scores to put on you
Okay.
later. We got him. Well done.
Well, I've got our scores.
I do like his Birmingham prediction, 47-43 against Glasgow. I'd take that.
Yeah.
Last match then.
Kent versus Plymouth. That could be an interesting match, actually. Mind you, Plymouth are guest for Crumpy, I suppose.
Yeah.
And they can pretty much have their pick of the league, can't they?
I think they can, actually, yeah.
Hasn't he got a 12-point average at the moment?
At the moment, yeah. I don't think he'll have it when the new average come out.
Yeah.
I will go for Kent 50-40 on that one.
50.
Who's next?
Me. 52-48 to Kent.
52-48?
52-40. You know what I'm saying.
52-38.
38, yes, thank you.
So we're suddenly having 18-8 there, wasn't we?
Yeah, well, it's those tactical subs and
Right.
black and white helmets that we don't have anymore, thank God.
Okay, I'll go 53-37 Kent.
There we go.
There you go.
You do know I'm going to win. What's the studio prize? That's what I want to know.
What's the studio prize?
Is it pints of lager or?
Okay. Yeah. Well,
you got to bring some a bunch of beers in or something. Yeah. There we go.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't even drink beer, do you?
Yeah.
I'm not a great beer drinker, to be
What I'm
honest.
saying is the two losers after. So you two have got to bring in beer for me.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think.
Just trying to get it right.
Yeah. I think you're barking up the wrong tree here. But I really do. Right. Well, I guess. Wow. Almost exactly on time.
Yeah, well done.
Would anybody think we planned this?
Planned?
Yeah.
God.
Thank you for joining us again
Thank you.
tonight. Hope you all enjoyed the show. Slightly different tonight. Hopefully you Birmingham fans get yourself down to watch what's going to be a good match, I think, whatever the result.
Big test for Birmingham tomorrow. Massive test.
And we will see you next week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Welcome to the Speedway Tavern. What's the news today?